It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy chips and salsa.
People love chips and salsa.
What is up, everybody? Zeke Rodriguez here with the Chips and Salsa Show, along with Alice Lara.
Hola, guacamole on today with the sexy New Mexican.
Sexy New Mexican. I can't hear that name without laughing. But thank you guys so much for joining us, Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. We have a good show lined up for you today. We're going to go national, then we're going to go state, local, and then we're going to go super local here in Las Cruces, all of which pertains to wherever the hell you guys are, because we're all in this together, right? We're all connected in some weird freaking way in this crazy universe. So, first things first, Alice, the border disorder, what is going on over there? Because everybody cares right now, everybody.
Isn't that the truth? Well, of course, unless you've been under a rock, but there are 25 states, correct me if I'm wrong, that are actually supporting Governor Abbott from Texas and what he's doing. It's amazing. And then all of a sudden, like we talked about this a little bit last week, Biden, they decided that now, you know what, maybe we should do something about this border issue. Maybe it's a problem. It wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that it's election year, would it? I think probably
Right.
so. Probably so.
100%.
So there's just all of that's going on. Now, the fence, I think, so the whole idea was they didn't like the fence that they were putting up. The barb, what is it? Was it rebar or barbed wire?
Razor wire.
Razor wire. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Razor wire. So there's that going on, but bottom line, these are our borders and are being invaded. And you see figures, 10 million, 11 million. I believe that in a recent Trump rally, he was saying it could get up to close to 20 million. And as much as whether you don't like Trump or you do like him, he's usually pretty on it. What he says, he's pretty close to accuracy. And while a good chunk of those people we hope are good people, there have been video. Did you see that one video, Zeke? And it's a guy, and he looks like he's maybe, I don't know, from the Middle Eastern country. And so there's a gentleman, I believe it was from Texas, and the general reporter is asking, well, so where are you from? What are you doing? And he's like, well, don't you know who I am? You're going to know who I am. Did you guys see
yeah.
it? Did you see
Yeah,
it?
I saw that.
And it was very powerful because to be bold enough, you're not even in your own country, but you have the, I'll call them gonads, stones, okay? I'll try to be nice here.
Balls.
I leave all the, there you go. I leave the rough words to Zeke because he is the sexy New Mexican and can say no wrong. But for him to actually say that on a mic, knowing that it's probably going to go viral, it really says something about the way our borders are not managed.
Yeah, and that's just one guy. They've caught many other terrorists that have been on the terrorist watch list for a long time. They found them here. And that's just one thing. The border, we can go on and on about it. I think from what I understand, what I like is to see 25 states getting on board.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's freaking amazing. And, if you guys aren't familiar with the Convention of States, I've been familiarized with it. It's like Article 4 of the Constitution basically states that if we can get a majority or over half of the states, like 26 states on board to vote for a Convention of States, it's what they call a Convention of States, we can go ahead and ratify the Constitution, and we can push the federal government out of states' rights. We can do a lot. We can basically rewrite the Constitution. So being affiliated with that organization in the past and seeing that these guys are coming together, maybe the Convention of States is something we ought to be pushing. I'll be putting more content up with that because I just reached out to our regional director for the Convention of States. So I'm very interested in it. That's one positive thing I noticed. The other thing I noticed is they got guys in Texas with all their tractors. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I was just going to mention that, yeah.
Yeah, the guys
huge.
Freaking tractors out there, wall of tractors. Just a
caravan, yeah.
The caravan of there's a caravan of the semis going out that way too, right? But the problem is that this should have been done years ago. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the border could have been built decades ago for a fraction of the cost that we spend for these proxy wars, for freaking, all this crazy UN aid that we fund. We could have had the wall built. So that's my issue. Everybody's getting behind Governor Abbott now and whatever, but it's dude, you should have been doing this years ago.
Well, long time ago, the money was there. And the whole deal was, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to enforce laws. But that never happened. It's one thing, you can pass all the laws you want to. You can say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But until it's actually done, it's not going to have an impact. and we're so behind in it. And that's why, man, Trump's talking about it. Not enough people are still talking about it. And like I encourage everybody every week when we're here, post something to your social media. Keep up with it, because it's very easy just to ignore it unless it's right in your backyard. And it really probably is. You just don't know or have the impact because you don't see it directly. It's all relative until it's your relative.
Right.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up, the Convention of States. Now, of course, New Mexico is not one of the states, even though we're the neighbor to Texas.
Right.
And we are not one of the states that are supporting Governor Abbott, as is Arizona is not.
I know, I saw
supporting
that too.
it.
That was weird.
What do we have there? 2 Democrat governors.
And that's just so weird. Like, man, it's a problem for everybody. I don't care what part. And that's the thing, too. You hear on the news. I was in Albuquerque recently. I was there for almost a freaking week. And every news channel was like, the border, the border. It doesn't matter what party, independent, Democrat, Republican, we all want a secure border. Like, it just kept coming on. Like, so I don't know what's going on. Everybody obviously cares about the border, but still, it's not even mentioned locally, really. The news, I was surprised Albuquerque News was even covering it. We're talking about it now, and that's big, but hey, I don't see that issue being resolved anytime soon. I think this is a plan that's been in place for decades upon decades. A lot of money has been invested to make sure that there is no way in which that we can close the border, because there's just so much financial things that go behind having an open border, be it human trafficking, child trafficking, drugs. I mean, it's huge. So there's just too many billions of dollars of incentive to keep it open, and there is not. It
is a big conglomeration of money, and the cartels are involved and everything. So the fact that Biden is talking about it, what is your prediction of what he will be proposing, or has he proposed? Am I just behind the line here and haven't seen what he wants to do, what he says needs to be done?
Yeah. No, well, they're masters of straggling things along. Like, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We only got a year left for the election, so it's like they can keep pushing these bills back another year, no problem, So I don't think that they're going to do anything about it at all. I think it's going to come down to we the people. We've got an influx of almost 20 million people, right, you were saying?
I think it's going to be that.
We're going to have to deal with that, guys. I wouldn't expect relying on government to save us or anybody, really. I mean, at this point, I hate to be the guy of doom and gloom news, but it's just the reality. I'm trying to warn you guys as human beings, as a species, like, we're going to have to go through some crazy shit here in the very near future. And just looking at it logically, the federal government having time to support it, even if they were to back us up, and the state government, even if they were to back us up, they don't even know what's up and down. How do we expect them to organize a militia to help us on the border? It ain't going to happen in a year, guys.
And then the New Mexico border, too. I think a lot of the traffic goes through Texas and through Arizona. But you don't really even hear about the New Mexico border, which makes me think if I were going to be doing it, maybe that's where I would do it, because it's really not being watched very much. Do you know anything about that? Have you heard
I do.
in your circles about
I'm glad you brought that
happening?
up, and I've known about this for years. I was waiting for it to go mainstream before I bring it up. Now, this is hardcore conspiracy theory, but it just came out on mainstream news, worldwide news, over the weekend that Dulce, New Mexico is the home of the biggest dumb base. If you guys haven't heard of the dumb base, it's a deep underground military base. Dulce, New Mexico has the biggest underground military base in the world, and the guy who built them, there was a super smart engineer that actually built them. He blew the whistle on it not too long ago, and he died about a year after he blew the whistle. But he released evidence of videos of the machines that they used to build these massive deep underground tunnels. He took pictures at Dulce, New Mexico, in front of the signs that this is a government building. And yeah, they took his ass out. So
now, where is it? Excuse me, because I should know, but whereabouts on the border?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Is it Dulce, D-U-L, or
yeah,
Dulce?
Dulce. I say Dulce because that's how the news pronounced it, but it's Dulce.
That's cool.
Dulce, New Mexico. I think it's on the lower east side of New Mexico. I think it's right down there in the pocket. I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that.
So closer to like the Lordsburg.
Yeah, and I'm gonna post it on. I'll post it in the comments and I'll post it on my stories. There's a map that shows all these underground tunnels come up from Mexico. They start there in Dulce and they go all throughout the country from there. So I think even if New Mexico did have open borders or whatever, nobody even cares. They're using these underground bases anyways. So there's a lot going on. That has a lot to do with the Freemasons and the old knowledge that they have. Basically, every ancient religion and culture in history, especially the Freemasons, predict that there's going to be a huge cataclysmic event in the near future. And everyone that's building these underground bunkers and like the billionaires and stuff, they're basically just getting ready to repopulate the earth after the cataclysm event in the way that they see fit. So, we got to talk about this stuff, guys, because if we don't understand it as a species and are aware of it, then how can we stop it? How can we fight for ourselves? And this is all fact-checkable stuff. I'm not going to put my reputation on the line here if I didn't know and verify that it is fact, that this is what's going on in our world today.
And we still need to get someone probably from our legislative world of New Mexico who's familiar with the border and get them to talk more specifically about it, because I don't hear anything. You hear Arizona, like I say, you hear about Texas, they're in the news all the time. And meanwhile, our little sleepy border, who knows how sleepy it really is? Because you can come into New Mexico, you can get a driver's license here.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you don't have to be a citizen.
But
You can.
why I think that the border being open here has not really been a big deal, because we don't see any influx. We don't see any. We've only got 2 million people in this state in total, but you're saying 20 million came in. It's like I don't see those populations here. So I think if they did use our border, they ain't coming here.
Or if they do, they're shipped out somewhere, or they just don't stay. I really think if they do, they just don't stay here. There isn't a big economy here, unless maybe they have some family or something they're looking. And then they're not necessarily from Latin American countries either. So
No, hell no.
Where they go?
The last videos that I saw, it was all nothing but Chinese dudes, like a whole line of military-age Chinese. There was maybe like 1 or 2 girls per 100 people, and it was all military-age Chinese men. It was I just saw that over the weekend. So, Middle Eastern guy. Oh, and they also found it was 4 football fields of military-grade tents in Panama or somewhere in South America, and then they found another set of those in southern Texas. So they're letting them get built up there in South America, and then they're shipping them up here to Texas. And yeah, it's basically an invasion, guys. We're getting invaded. No big deal. It doesn't mean that's a problem. It's just an invasion.
And you alluded earlier to United Nations. At the pre-primary convention that I was at on Saturday, I sat next to William Bierman.
Mr. Bierman, shout out.
He's very knowledgeable. He's been on our show. Yes, shout out to William. Bill. And he was talking about how United Nations is helping to fund all this.
Yeah.
And of course, as people know, we, the United States, who mainly funds the United Nations, our dinero goes there.
China.
And our money goes there too.
Our money as well. Not as much, but it's mostly
But a
China.
chunk.
Bill Gates invests a lot of money into the World Health Organization, the UN as well. So yeah, guys, it's us versus them, and us, but I mean by that is we the people versus the whole rest of the world, because the rest of the world has nothing but pure incentive to destroy the American dollar, because we've been so dominant for so long, and we are the only ones in the world that have constitutional God-given rights for the Second Amendment, for free speech, freedom of religion. We're the only humans on earth that have that, guys. So it would incentivize the entire world to destroy our dollar, get on a different, and I agree with that, because the dollar is just horrible. Fiat currency has no backing at all. But, so they want to get rid of the dollar for to help them get on their, own currency, it's backed by gold bricks, and then get rid of we the people, which is basically the only people on earth that can fight for our freedoms. No one else in the world has constitutional backing the way that we do. So again, the whole world is incentivized to take us out.
Yes, absolutely. Do you, it's sad, like you say, don't want to be gloom and doom, because we do have hope. We always have hope.
Oh, there's a ton of hope. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that later, yeah. We have to close out with a big giant prayer as well.
Yeah.
Do you know anybody here locally? Because in Arizona, it used to drive us crazy. There were a lot of people that I knew, and they were doing the immigration route the correct way, the legal way. And it takes so much time. It takes a lot of money and legal things that you have to go through. So I always imagine those poor people that are trying to do that. Meanwhile, somebody just kind of walks across. Oh, okay, that's all right. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. Come on in. No problem. Come on in. And it would be really good to talk to somebody who's gone through that, because that's just a big giant slap in the face after spending all that money.
Yeah, talking about money, you kind of sparked something like, I hate to keep bringing it up, but the deep underground military bases, it's like, when 9/11 hit, there was right before it hit, we lost, I think it was $1 trillion. The Pentagon just freaking lost $1 trillion, and well, what happened to it? We don't know. And you can look that up. We lost, I think it might've been $2 trillion, but for sure it was $1 trillion. So $1 trillion would be a good amount of money to start doing this shadow government type stuff. And that's something that we just got to be aware of, guys. There's a whole nother level of consciousness on this planet that we are all completely not made aware of. So you talk about people walking over the border. I'm like, well, that's been going on no matter what, and we've been dealing with it. But all of a sudden now, we're getting this surge from people all over the world. You got billionaires building underground bunkers. Something's going to happen. Something big's going to happen. And I think the last of our problems is going to be these immigrants coming over. I think a big part of what we're dealing with right now is a spiritual war. It's a spiritual battle, guys. So more than anything, it's a good time for you guys to get close to God, to really get close to your family and your friends. And that is ultimately what got the founding fathers and we the people to where they were at that time in 1776. So let's get back to doing that again. That's our only defense, really.
It's true, and that's where we get our rights from. They come
Yeah.
from God. They're God-given rights, and
Yeah.
and that's what the left evidently wants us to forget. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're not going to forget that.
No, yeah, the left is, socialism, communism, Marxism, and Marxism is very much against God. The country is God, the state is God, and the dictator is God. So the sooner we get rid of God, the better it is for the Marxist regimes to step on in, which is United Nations. But yeah, so we'll try to get some guests on for the border. I mean, our state doesn't talk about it much. I mean, Arizona, I'm surprised to say Arizona wasn't part of that 25. It wasn't part of that 25. And if we can...
Well, because of the governor, I'm sure.
It's the governor, like you
governor
said.
is a Democrat.
They have so much power. Governors have so much power, guys. They're like senators. Governors are basically, to me, on the same level as U.S. senators. Those are the two most powerful positions in the country because the governor basically runs their own country. They have constitutional backing to run their own state as its own country. And then the senators, senators are ultra powerful. It's like a circle of 20 people that basically run the world. Senators dictate what the presidents do and don't sign off on financially. So the senators control the money, basically. But let's talk about Arizona and Carrie Lake. Let's
The Arizona legislature too is just barely Republican.
barely, right?
Just barely. I mean, they're just hanging on by a thread. Well, do you want to go there first? Before I wanted to mention a little bit about Trump and his $83 million.
Let's
that
do
they
it.
wanted him to pay. Since we're still on the national thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you've also seen the interview with the lady that was awarded $83 million. Did you see the interview with Anderson Cooper?
Yeah, she's kooky as it gets.
Oh my
She was hitting on Anderson Cooper right there on the
And he's
camera.
gay, right? He's a gay guy.
super gay. She was hitting on him.
It just says so much about, and even I haven't kept up with everything that closely. But the judge would say, okay, yeah, disregard whatever he said after that. Oh, disregard this, disregard that. That's not America. That's not our court system. You are supposed to be on trial, okay, or whatever, you're giving testimony. But even murderers and rapists, they get their say. They get to say what they want to say. He was clearly shut down. Already, and that's just so it was like 63 million and then another 20 million or something like that. $83 million, and I believe originally she'd only asked for something, I think it was like 6 or 7 million, and awarded $83 million.
Yeah. To my understanding, the biggest problem this also happened to Alex Jones, but you can't submit evidence. Trump couldn't testify and he couldn't submit any evidence, so his constitutional right to a fair trial was completely diminished. And that's happening all over the world, guys, especially like in Canada and America, we're dealing with that. So from my understanding, we basically need to have the higher courts step in to clean out the local courts. Other than that, it's just like the judges have these crazy, 83 million. Well, Trump, I think, was worth $7 billion last time I checked. So 83 million is, I think, what is that, 1%?
They're whittling him down little by
1%
little.
of his total net worth, a little more than 1%, or is that 10%? I think that's just 1%. God, my math is bad. I just embarrassed myself. Either way, he can afford it, but damn.
1,000 million is a billion, right? 1,000 million.
So
is a
it's just 8%.
Still, just as you always say, and we talk about it a lot. Okay, they're going after him, but it's just a little precedent because if they can do that to him, they can certainly try to do the same thing to us. It's not just about Trump. Whenever you see these stories and these things that happen. It's just horrendous that's even happening in our country.
And they come after you like they did Carrie Lake, and they do other conservative politicians, but that's what we're here for, guys. I don't complain. If they come after me, they have, because I just think back about what our founding fathers had to deal with when they were founding this country. They saw their freaking sons get killed right in front of them, their wives were getting killed. They lost eyes, they lost limbs, and they kept on going, man. They lost everything. So this life is very short to me. We're on this planet for a very, very short time. That's the hill to die on, guys. Freedom and love of God and this country is the hill to die on. So I don't complain. I think that whenever they do come after me or they come after someone that I believe is a pro-human person, I think that's your term right there. That's a badge of honor.
It is a badge of honor, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's so important. We can think, it's so hard and get involved and do this and do that. Well, just like you said, our founding fathers, they went through so much. And even not that many generations ago for most Americans, if you think about what your grandfather or your great-grandfather had to go through, please, if you don't know the history in your family as an American, find out what it is, because you'd be amazed at the stories that you find out. Hopefully someone is still alive in your family that's old enough to tell you what happened or what they had to go through to come here. Now, maybe not everybody's story is that serious, but I tell you what, you will find some tremendous stories.
Oh, yeah, and stories are everything. That's the true inspiration. Whenever we're watching a movie, whenever we're watching a sitcom, it's all about the story. So telling our story, understanding stories is just amazing for human consciousness. And I'll give you a story for the founding fathers, what they deal with, just for perspective. I mean, most of the guys who fought in the Civil War, who fought in the Revolutionary War, they were 14, 15 years old, extremely poor, had no food, had no money. They had no choice but to fight for freedom and die on the front line. A lot of these guys died in the trenches, never been laid, never fell in love, and that's just what it was. That's just how bad things can get as a planet if we don't fight for freedom. So I don't know how bad it's going to get here, guys. I just know that the human species is built for attrition. It's built for endurance, and we're built for love of life. So I always bet on the human spirit. I'm not one to say this is all over. I do think we're going to go through some massive changes, and we're going to endure a lot, but I think we can get through it. I know we can get through it.
And this is what, one of the reasons that we do this show too, and we encourage you to share it, because, if somebody may not have the time to pay attention to politics or the world and things that are going on. Well, you can say here, here's a link, listen to these guys for 5 or 10 minutes, and they might get a spark. They might say, oh, okay, because again, like Glenn Beck would always say, well, don't believe me. Look it up yourself. Listen to other people. Talk to other people. Because I'm not the authority on everything. We just happen to have been following it and continue following it for a long, long time.
Who the hell else is going to tell you guys about deep underground military bases? Not many people. I'll do it because I don't care. But well, what else is there? Now we can jump into Carrie Lake, right?
Shall we kind of hit that? That's still our national news. So over the weekend.
Was that this weekend?
Over the weekend there was they had a state meeting.
Oh, the state meeting. Okay.
Right. So, and last week, what happened is the Arizona GOP, Arizona Republican State Chairman, Jeff DeWitt, stepped down. As most of you know, it was a national story. Carrie Lake, who ran for governor, and now she is running for Arizona U.S. Senate. And she had a recording of an attempted bribery. So, long story short, the AZGOP chairman, Jeff DeWitt, steps down. So this weekend was their state meeting. Okay, and I've been to the state meetings. They're very big. I think there are like 2,100 precinct committeemen. Here we have committee members. That's kind of the closest thing that's equivalent to. As a precinct committeeman, you're actually elected. But these are state committeemen. So like the state committeemen represent the precinct committeemen. And they had to vote and get another chairperson in there for the state. And my good friend Gina Swoboda, she did win. Now, I actually knew both that were running.
Yeah, you knew DeWitt, right? Talk about that.
Yeah, I knew DeWitt. I met him. He was the state treasurer, and I met him long ago when he was running for office. A nice man, very smart.
You always spoke so highly of him.
And I think, that's another conversation for...
You did. You always like, man, DeWitt's good. He's solid. You had ties to him. You talked to him. So
I don't know him. He's not like my personal friend or anything,
well,
but
of course
I knew
not.
him.
It's always superficial with these kinds of things, right?
I think he probably did what he was told to do, and I think it was a thing for him to do, to step down. So what they did is they had an election there, and it was basically between Jim O'Connor, who is an Arizona Corporation Commissioner there in Arizona. That's kind of like, it's the Public Utilities Commission here.
Oh, wow.
Is that what that is, the state? So it's equivalent to that.
Powerful.
So he was running for the state chair, and then so was Gina Swoboda. Gina Swoboda, who is a good friend of mine, she was endorsed both by Carrie Lake and by Trump. Now, I will tell you, she won. Okay, Gina won, and I have an open invitation into her, so maybe in the near future we can have her come on. And Gina was very smart. Gina worked in the Secretary of State's office. That's where I got to know her, because I file reports for my boss, the lobbyist, and also very, very active politically in the Republican Party, very smart, was very involved with election integrity, and so I think she was a good choice. Mr. O'Connor would have been fine too. Commissioner O'Connor would have been fine too, I think. I think Gina probably has maybe more time to devote to it, and she is a very solid person. So there's a lot of division, just like probably in our state and other states. But I think the good thing about this is, I'm hoping, I've been texting like all weekend with people, okay, in Arizona.
Yeah, she's big time over there, Maricopa.
I think this will allow, get it together, get organized, and continue on, because this year is a crucial year. We have to get Republicans elected. We have to get conservatives in office and good people. So no matter what happens, there's got to be some kind of unity to do it. And the same kind of has to happen here too, I think, in New Mexico, so we can have some progress. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. The division is everywhere. I just went to the Republicans' banquet legislative dinner in Santa Fe. Well, we can talk about that a little bit later, but I have some pretty interesting insights on that. I guess, but before we get on that, let's, with the new GOP chairman in Arizona, I have a lot of hope, because it was very unfortunate to hear. If you guys hear the interview, it's crazy. I mean, he basically is like, he bribes her. It's
kind of scary.
Yeah.
Really.
Like,
I mean, how would you have liked to have been Carrie on the other end?
Well, she
did a good job.
Calm as a cucumber eating like popcorn while he's, trying to buy her life.
Yeah, she was munching on.
It's quite funny, but at the same time, it's not, because he's like, look, we'll basically pay you anything to just not run for 2 years. So something special about these next 2 years. They want her out for 2 years. To me, that was a red flag. It's like, what is so important about the next 2 years? More incentive for you guys to get involved. That's how close they are. That's how close we are to winning. If we could all get involved in this next 2 year time frame, we could win. So we should do the opposite of what they want. They want her gone for 2 years. They want us gone for 2 years. Well, then we should step up and come in full force for the next 2 years, right?
It makes you think that, and as well as, and I should say, so the other opponent, okay, on the Republican side is Sheriff Lamb. And Sheriff Lamb, he's a great guy, okay?
For GOP chair?
He's also running for U.S. Senate.
Oh.
A Republican.
Against Kerry. Mm-hmm. Damn.
And he was in the race first, so that's full disclosure of that.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be, that's going to be the big thing. But it's very interesting. If you listen to the whole interview, it's very interesting. When I first listened to it, I'm like, is that really Jeff? And I'm trying to listen to identify the voice quickly. But what I want to reemphasize to people, and I've talked about this, you really don't have any privacy wherever you are. And
no, hell no.
Carrie is smart enough, and whoever talks to Carrie should have probably known that. She was ready and recording. And if you ever want to do that, I mean, there's apps you can put on your phone. I could be right here, and you and I are having a conversation, and I'm recording, and you wouldn't know because my phone looks dead and stuff like that. So just kind of take that as a warning. I tell people too, I was talking just to somebody this weekend. See, if you're having a conversation, email, a text, whatever, and you're concerned, if it's political especially, I'd probably put somebody on there, a third person, just to have a witness.
Yeah.
Now, that's going to sound like, oh my gosh, Alice, you're really conspiratorial. But look at what just happened. Look at what just happened.
It's like that, guys. Politics is like that. It's if you don't want to be bored, get involved with politics. I'll tell you that.
So like now, every time that you talk to somebody, you're going to think about it.
Well, she was a journalist, so she's
exactly.
ready. That's what journalists do is they freaking they get whistleblowers, right? And they record them.
And she had talked about this a long time ago.
Yeah, she did.
I don't know if she had necessarily was planning to disclose it. I haven't talked personally to her. I couldn't tell you. I'm gonna put in a request. Maybe she'll be on the show. Who knows? You just never know.
Well, let's jump into football real quick since we're going national. And it does pertain to Paul, again, like with my show, the Zeke Rodriguez Show, every Monday from 7:30 to 8:30. Today I did 2 live streams back-to-back because I couldn't get my 2 phones together. But I talked about it. I watch football. I usually like to watch the beginning of the season, and I'll watch the end of the season because I'm a bandwagoner. Whoever's winning, I'll get behind
And
them.
have you always just kept following it even with all the controversy? Did you take a break? Or
I took a big break with the Kaepernick thing and the kneeling. Man, I completely shut off from football. But once they cleaned that up, I started to slowly get back involved. And I watched the beginning of the season, watched the end of the season. And the reason why I bring it up is because they just announced that Taylor Swift is going to be working with the Biden campaign to get him elected because I guess she can sway like up to 15% of the vote or something with her popularity. So I would be willing to bet that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, why wouldn't they? If they're trying to get a political agenda behind it, you just got to basically get some referees on board and you're solid. The referees can dictate the game. And I was debating with everybody I was watching the game with this week, and they're like, oh, this is as real as it gets. I hate when people say it's fake. I'm like, dude, they've already caught NBA referees switching games, buying points. Why wouldn't the football? You can change a football game with one bad call, and they did. This past game. I mean, who was it? The Lions. Man, a couple of bad calls lost them the game.
Wow.
So T Swift, Travis Swift, I like to call him, is a political player now, and I'd be willing to bet they're going to do everything they can to make sure the Chiefs win, and they can leverage that world popular momentum towards Biden. But I'm a Niners fan now. I am.
So, and it's probably, I would say, just like you, a lot of people have come back and now they're following football.
Yeah.
Where they took that break.
Yep.
So it's probably a smart political move to do that, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you got to do everything you can. I mean, these people are desperate. Trump's winning by margins that we've never seen before in American history. I'll say it again. He's beating George freaking Washington in the polls, dude, the founding father of our country. So what would you do if you're on the opposite end of that? You can do whatever you can to just try to even out the points.
So should Trump just go after another sport and try to get somebody else?
He's already been doing that. That guy was like a role of wrestling.
Wrestling, that's right, wrestling.
He tried to make his own NFL because he saw how corrupt it was decades ago. But he couldn't get it together. He couldn't buy another football league.
Is he? Is there any other sports? Like the sports are coming back, I think. And people. That's America. Americans love their sports. Still, even though there's.
I don't fully agree with it, but I'll let you finish.
Well, I'm just saying that they're still popular, even at its lowest points. People still wanted to go. I think what happened too, it got hurt too with the COVID thing. Remember, you couldn't even
decimated
go and attend a game. So what I want to ask you, because I don't follow sports like you do.
Okay.
How powerful is that? Will they come back? Is it just football and baseball? Because those are the major ones. I don't hear too much about basketball that much. But again, I don't follow sports, so you're the expert here. I'm not.
Well, I'm the Mr. Conspiracy crazy guy. If you're familiar with 1984, George Orwell's book, and if you don't know George Orwell, he basically worked for the UN for a very long time. He knew the guys at the top ends of the federal bank and the global banks, and he wrote a book that basically, in 1984, that basically described a very small global elite taking over the majority of the human race, and they were going to do it with sports and gambling and booze and distraction. I mean, Orwell was big on distraction with sports and gambling. And what happened? I think gambling was made nationally legal recently. And sports now have more momentum than ever. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know, the flicker rate on your TV, the blue screen, the blue lights on your TV are and frequencies that come out of your TV are very good mechanisms to lower your frequency to get you in a docile mindset. And I just think that they're using sports to distract people from what's really going on at the border, with our world. That's what Caesar did with Rome. When Rome was falling, he threw the most events at the Colosseum, right? So I think that's what's going on now. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. I was watching football all freaking weekend. But yeah, I don't necessarily agree with it because I think it's a big distraction. If everybody that went to these college football games, college basketball games, NFL games, if they all got involved with politics, it'd be a whole other world. But it's nostalgic, it's Americana, and people want it. I engage with it this weekend too. I think it's great to hang out. I was out at a friend's house, his mom was cooking us dinner, we had a little barbecue, and it was a freaking great time. It just reminded me of when I was growing up when we did it with my family. So it's hard to get us out of that nostalgia. But hey guys, let's look at more than just football, huh?
And it's just like if you ever have been to a Trump rally.
I haven't.
The Trump rallies, man, it's so cool because there's people from all ages and colors and perspectives, and it's so fun, and the energy is good, and you meet so many people, and that's what kind of, when you go to a game and stuff, because you're all for, this is my team, and you want to cheer for your team, and you're with a like-minded person. But I want to ask you real quick, though, you mentioned the Blu-ray things. Okay, how old does your TV have to be?
All TVs have flicker rate mechanisms within it. They all have it's the blue lights. The blue lights are really bad for sleep. If you watch a lot of blue light past 6 p.m., it starts to mess with your circadian.
Is that on your phone too, right?
Yeah, and the new phones, like my phone has it, it'll naturally start going into orange light because that's really good for your circadian rhythm. Basically, it mimics the sun going down, and it hits all the dirt on the horizon. So that's why the sun looks orange in the evenings, because it hits all the dirt that's in the atmosphere, and your eyes start to think, okay, it's time to go to bed. So my phone is set to go to orange past 6 p.m. so it doesn't keep you up. But if you'll notice, all the street lights when we were kids were orange. Now, if you walk around, there's nothing but blue lights in the street lights, and that really, I can't stress this enough, blue light really screws with your circadian rhythm, guys. So watching TV past 6 p.m., not having blue light filters on, is just it's bad for you. It's going to keep you up. It's going to keep you in a more insomniac style state of mind.
So can you get a blue light filter for your TV? I mean,
You can make adjustments on it, but I wouldn't even bother with it. If you're watching TV past 6 p.m., it's going to affect your circadian rhythm, you know. And I don't even own a TV, guys. I haven't had a TV in 6-7 years. I watch YouTube on my phone. I have my computer, but usually past 7-8 p.m. I'm not watching the screen.
Well, you don't really need a TV anymore. Actually,
You don't.
you can get everything on this little thing, and if you have your apps and can get up to date.
Yeah, and it's the most thing is a flicker rate. If you just Google flicker rate programming, I mean, you can see how easy it is to manipulate someone by the flicker rate that they see on the TV. It basically just lowers your psychological frequency to be more suggestive. So whatever you are watching, it's gonna just make you less energetic and then more inclined to follow whatever the TV is telling
So
you.
do we need to get a green light here for our show to influence our chipsters?
My phone's programmed to go orange after 6
Joey
p.m.
Haley, get on that, okay? All right. Green chili. We call it the green chili light.
The green chili filter.
Spot on. Green chili filter. Oh, a big giant green chili.
For us health nuts out, I'm a big wellness guy, health nut guy. This is like common. So some of you guys are like, yep, Zeke knows. Some people are like, this fool's crazy. But hey, whatever.
I don't discount anything anymore. To me, it's like when I hear something, instead of saying, "Oh man, that's crazy,"
I don't either.
no, first go and find out about it, and it's amazing. But go to a source that you trust, and don't believe just because we say it. Go and check it out.
Yeah, I'm tripping out on it. I keep going back to it because it's tripping me out. I'm just like you guys. Like I've had heard about the deep underground military bases years ago. Like probably like 2018 when I first got involved with politics. I was like, get out of here. That's crazy.
It's
pretty
freaky.
far freaking out there. But when I saw it on national news and I saw the guy who ousted him and stuff, it's like, man, there's so much of this world that we don't know. And I'm humble too. Like there's a lot that I don't know. I come up here and tell you guys about flicker rates and crazy stuff, but I stay humble. I don't know nothing. I don't know anything.
Well, that's the whole thing too. What do we not know? And then I'm older than you, so stuff that I heard about a long, long time ago, I'm like, sure, yeah, right, and then boom, it is true. So that's why I'm saying, you try to keep an open mind. You try to keep an open mind and do what you can do. But I want to talk more about, so you were in, since we're doing, kind of switching to state.
Yeah.
We're
going to state.
So Arizona's got their new GOP chair. Are we going to elect a GOP chair here soon? Not yet.
Well, unfortunately, our GOP chair, Chairman Pierce, wasn't able to make this event. I guess he's a pilot and he got fogged in or something, so he wasn't able to go. And it was the annual Republican Legislative Banquet Dinner. And it was the first one that I've attended. It was actually a very well-put organization, and all the basically Republican legislators were there. All the biggest players in the state, as far as Republicans are concerned, were there. A select few weren't able to make it because they were still dealing with stuff in the legislative session. And of course, the chairman wasn't there, but everyone else was there. It was a great event. I'm not going to criticize or name names for the local party because I just don't want to do that, but I will name one name that I think deserves recognition. It's just House Representative Jim Townsend. Out of all of the Republican legislators that were able to give talks and speeches that day, Representative Townsend, was the only one that mentioned the issues that are going on with the border, and the only one that mentioned the issues with the LGBTQ community pushing their views on children here in the state. Which
Wait a minute. Only one person, and where does he hail from? What area?
he's from Artesia, I want to say. Don't quote me on that, but he's from he represents the
conservative.
oil district, super conservative guy. Very successful in the oil industry, to my understanding. He was a big supporter of my campaign when I ran for state representative. Always very down to earth. Always just a huge supporter of mine. I kind of was like a little leery of it. Like, why is this guy so freaking cool? He was super cool, and he's like, man, when are you going to run again? He came right up to me. But I think it was like 6 or 7 different legislators came up and spoke, most of which I'd never met before or seen. But Mr. Townsend, he was a former minority whip, which basically means we don't have as many Republicans in the state house legislator. But he was the minority leader when I was running. He's no longer the minority leader. He gave up and gave his talk, and he talked about the border. He talked about LGBTQ. No one else did, man.
Zeke, why do you think just one person? Because to me, that's a perfect opportunity to address those issues. You are among friends. You are with your GOP fellow, legislators.
It was very disappointing. All I know is that when Mr. Townsend gave that speech, we all gave him a long standing ovation. I mean, he got the biggest cheers by far of anybody there. And there were some good speeches too. But none of the GOP leaders, mentioned the border. None of the other legislators mentioned the border, and that was very upsetting to me. Like I said, I'm not going to name names, and ultimately what it really boils down to is I think there's a lot of that same exact problem going on nationwide. So I don't want to put all the pressure on the local GOP because I'm a member of the local GOP, and I'm honored to be a Republican. We freed the slaves. You know what I mean? We championed rights for African Americans, right? And I can go on and on about what the Republicans have done for this country.
We have a good history.
We have an amazing history, the best history. So I'm not trying to bash the local GOP because I know I have a lot of support, and a lot of us were there wargaming, trying to figure out how we can improve the state and work around the issues. But for the vast majority of GOP leaders and legislators, not to mention the border, was very, very disheartening and discouraging. That's not to say that it's all over and we're all going to die, because there's a lot of us big-time leaders too. I know a lot of the big players there too. We're like, all right, we got to do this, we got to do that. But we have a lot of work to do, guys. And the main other issue, I hate to keep taking the stage from you, but the other main issue is that we got 25 legislative seats wide open, guys. Like, we don't even have anybody running for these House representative seats. Like, we're just going to give it over to the Democrats. That is another issue that I have. We should be recruiting.
Now, Townsend's going to run again, right?
Oh, yeah, he's actually going to senator. He's a shoo-in for a
he's
Senate
gonna
spot.
run for Senate.
We're not that far from taking
For
control of the
state
Senate.
Senate.
Yeah, we're not that far from taking control of the state Senate. So if we can just get some more people to run for state representative, man, that would give us a lot of momentum, and we can push more people in the state Senate.
Well, I would think this is, with everything going on nationally and in our state, this is a prime opportunity, and it surprises me that there aren't more people thinking about running as Republicans. Again, I ask you because I just moved back less than 2 years ago. Why do you think that is, Zeke? You're my spiritual advisor here, politically,
advisor
for
We're
Republicans.
going to say a prayer here in a little bit, too.
We better say a big prayer.
How can I say this without throwing anyone under the bus? Unfortunately, because we are
It's always a challenge.
It's hard to say. That's politics for we're the worst state in the country. Why wouldn't we have the worst Republican Party in the country? Like we should be actively recruiting people. We should be getting the word out there. And of course, it's an election year. We've got all this crazy stuff going on. This is the opportune time to get people involved and get people fired up. And there are people fired up. We were talking at that dinner in Santa Fe. Like, some of us were like, freaking, man, we're ready to go. And it just isn't that support. I mean, Attorney General Ken Paxton out of Texas, he's got an active recruiting PAC and funding and training for state representatives in Texas, because they help him keep his job, and it helps Texas stay red. Because if you don't know, Texas is very close to flipping the blue. So is Arizona.
Yes.
So if the Attorney General in Texas can rally up some money and some support to recruit candidates, why can't New Mexico? I don't know the answer to that, but I just know that it's a big, big problem.
But then ironically, too, at the same time, right now I understand there are 6 candidates running for U.S. Senate.
Right.
In New Mexico.
Yeah.
Challenging the incumbent Heinrich.
Right.
Am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of blows my mind a little bit. Is it too early, or are they just waiting to step in and see how things go? It's really not too early for them to be running for office. They should have already started like last year if you're going to run at the state level, right?
It's a huge, so if you guys don't know, being a U.S. Senator is probably one of the most prestigious positions you could ever hold on planet Earth in history. That is like ultra power. Like, we get 10, 20, 30, $40 million going into those types of races, guys. The U.S. Senate is the kind of race where you might go have a drink with another political affiliate, and you'll wake up in a hotel with your kidney missing. You know what I mean? Like, or who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a big, big freaking race. There's a lot on the line, so it does not surprise me that there's one. If you caught the last show, I'm a big proponent of Ben Luna because I know the guy. We were grassroots fighters, but he's gonna have a tough time. There's some big players getting involved in the race, and there's a lot of money behind them. A lot of money, and this is a big money race, guys. Huge money.
Well, and as you know, the U.S. Senate, it's a 6-year term.
Yep.
6 years, that's the longest one. In a way, I was wondering, I kind of like to see that shortened. That's a really long time to be in there for 6 years. Yeah,
I agree. It's basically like term limits, Like, we don't need people that have been in Congress for 30 freaking years still running, like Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters. Like, man, they've been there just too long. I mean, Biden was one of them, too. That guy just been in there for freaking ever.
I mean, you get reelected, and that means 12 years.
You can do some damage in
12 years. It's incredible.
So I encourage you guys. I am publicly out, supporting Ben Luna because he's basically my friend. He supported me with all my races. We've been close for years now. But I'm open-minded. Even though Ben and me, I know what's up with Ben, and we're tight, and we're gonna have him on the show, and we're gonna offer the same opportunity for all the other U.S. senators too. We welcome you guys all to come on board. I'm still open. If another campaign has stronger momentum, has a better team, has a better message, and ultimately they're the ones that have the better chance of winning, I'll support them. I'm not going to be, blindly loyal to someone because of my emotional connection or my history with them. I want to win too.
Well, and we thought, there might just be 2 people running. I think one of the last times that we did the show. So I should let you know, full disclosure, I was at the meeting this weekend, and that's here locally. It's for the Doña Ana County. And so Manny Gonzalez is another one.
Right.
And he was there. He did show up.
Yep.
Ben couldn't be there. I think Ben was at the Riadoso event. And so he asked me to read his speech, and I read it for him. And then there was also someone representing Nella Domenici. Is it Nella? Is
Yep,
her name?
yep.
And she's got a political history because of her dad. It's going to be a wild race. And that's just one race. That's one race. And there also was another, is it John Roberts, I think, is another one, and he was there in person. And it's a grueling schedule. I mean, when I ran for office, it was a smaller office for a hospital board. But I can't imagine, you've got to be traveling the entire state.
All the time.
Because you're trying to pick up votes and meet people and do that. That's one thing our show can provide that, because we can talk to the candidates personally. I would love, we talked about maybe doing a forum. We talked to Haley and
we're on top
Joey
of that.
about that.
We'll get on top of that, guys.
And that'd be fun to do. It really would be. I don't know if that we could get all 6 candidates here.
There's no one else in the state doing
It
it.
might be tricky, but it could be done. And those things, I love that, because when you have, they're all up there, and they what they're doing is they're staying there and they're anticipating, okay, what's that guy going to say? What's that gal going to say? How am I going to respond? And it tests their brain and how fast. And then after a while, you can see, okay, was that just a manufactured answer? They're ready for that, or they really think? That's why I like you, and I will give you kudos, because when you did the forum against Representative Ferrari, you could see the little wheels turning, going. And if you didn't know the answer, there was only one thing, and you didn't know the answer, and you didn't try to make up something. You were very honest. You said, you know what, I'm not familiar with that. And you couldn't be, because it was in the weeds. It was done on purpose.
It was one of the most asinine questions. It
You
was
did a
the most
great job.
asinine question I was ever asked in my freaking life. I don't even remember what it had to do with. It was like some roundabout school thing, educational, nobody cared about the issue. It was just basically like, hey, what's 5 to the power of 10 divided by 3 to the power of 2.
Most of the audience
It's like,
wasn't even familiar with what she was talking about.
yeah, it's like, what the hell are you guys talking about?
But you did so well, because you said, let me find out about that, and I will get back to you. And
Yeah.
that's the honest answer. And you know what? That was one of the reasons, too, that someone like that I have more respect for. Because you couldn't either. I mean, she had been a legislator for I don't know how many years.
Forever's 4
and
terms.
She should have known about that particular topic.
Well, I remember that forum. That was the worst anybody's ever treated me in my life at that forum. I mean, people wouldn't even acknowledge me. They'd walk right by me, wouldn't shake my hand, wouldn't say hi. They were throwing me random
weird.
wild, it was weird vibes, super wild. I'll never go back and do a debate there ever again. But yeah, I mean, that's just what you deal with in this politics stuff. You're going to get the dirt thrown at you. They're going to make stuff up about you. Ben's in for a wild ride. I mean, I'll pray for that. I'll pray for all the U.S.
Pray for all
Senate
of them.
candidates, because, man, it's a wild. This year's going to be crazy. It's already crazy, guys. But yeah, so then what else is going on? The legislative banquet dinner, it was a good time. I did have a good time. I was disappointed there's certain topics that weren't hit on. Mr. Luna, he's going to have a big race ahead of him.
Now, who was it was all legislators were invited? I mean, how?
All of them were there for the most part. I think there was only like 1 or 2 that didn't make it. A couple
and
of
you were
like-
just privileged because you're the wonderful.
Yeah, I'm
Puerto
plugged.
Ricans?
I'm plugged in. I'm plugged in with the higher echelons of the Republican Party in New Mexico. I actually sat right next to the RNC chair, Tina Chizek. I have a hard time pronouncing her last name, but we had some conversations too. She hosted the event, and I talked to a lot of legislators.
Do you mean when you say RNC chair for New Mexico?
For New Mexico,
Oh, okay.
yeah, for New Mexico. Tina, I forget her last name though, but she's cool. I've met her before in the past when I was running for lieutenant governor, and yeah, so we had some talks. She's an economic developer as well, and we had some talks about that. But
Did
again,
you see anybody there that you thought, wow, that's weird that they're here? Anything like that?
No,
Anybody
no, everybody there. It was pretty standard. It was kind of like everyone was kind of going through the motions, to be honest. Like I would hope in the future we could make it a little bit more poppy, a little more jazzy. Maybe get a comedian in there or something. I don't know. But I mean, for me, if you're gonna have the most
Ask
powerful
Bill Burr to be there.
yeah, do something. Get some kind of entertainment in there. But if we're gonna have all of the most powerful Republicans of the state together in one room for the only time almost ever, we ought to be leveraging that time as best as possible. And that to me wasn't done. It was a good dinner. It was a good time. But we could have, if we're gonna have everyone there to rallying, we could have been strategizing. I think a lot better. Would have been more important to me than anything else.
Well, it always amazes me because I think New Mexico has so much potential because even Democrats here are big 2A people, Second Amendment people.
Yeah.
The independents, I was showing you the statistics earlier that I found on the Secretary of Secretary of State website here in New Mexico. And the independents, we have a lot of independents here. Now, the Democrats still outnumber the Republicans, but I know I know that sound like I keep repeating myself, but there are so many Democrats here that are very conservative. They're very conservative, and I think that they can vote conservative and Republican for that matter.
Well, I talked to these guys about it. I am not going to name any names, but there's a whole force of people that are looking to fund conservative Democrats. They've basically given up on the Republican Party, and they're only sponsoring and funding and recruiting conservative Democrats, which I was like, at first I would have been like, man, that's not the way to go. We ought to be putting the energy in the Republican Party. But when we don't even talk about the fact that we're down 25 legislative candidates, I was like, that's a good idea. And they've actually had some success. They've had a couple of people winning that they've backed in the past few years.
And look what happened here locally with the Las Cruces campaign. And it is a Democrat mayor.
Yeah.
But Mayor Enriquez has a lot of conservative tendencies for him. So I'd rather have that. At least that's closer to conservativeness.
Yeah.
Which is really the ultimate goal. Because, you can get a Republican in there, and they're not all that conservative necessarily. You have to be careful still.
Yeah, and my response to them was basically like, look, I like what you guys are doing, and the reality is that if you're in like a red state, it's probably better to stay on the Republican side because you have that momentum, you have that established, power essentially. But in a hardcore blue state like California or New Mexico, you might want to go down the conservative Democrat route, and they agreed, and I agree with that at this point too. I'm not going to be actively.
I don't want to do that.
I'm not going to be doing that, but I understand where they're coming from because, man, I'll just say it, the GOP here is like so divided. The tension was in there. You can cut it with a butter knife. It was intense. I really hadn't felt that kind of energy ever, really, when we were all together. There was 300 of us in one room drinking alcohol, and boy, was it intense. It was really crazy, to be honest.
So you mean crazy?
Just tense, like you couldn't loosen up, you couldn't really.
Even with the alcohol?
Even with the alcohol, like it was like just, there was so much tension in the air and so many people wanted to say so much that they couldn't. You can just feel it, that it really, I've never had conversations like that in my life. It was just so off-putting.
Okay, so here's my theory. Tell me what you think. I think we need to do more of these things. You and I have talked about it. I think that the Republican Party, maybe here in New Mexico, has just gotten kind of used to not being that effective. And we need to just keep meeting people and getting a little stronger. Masa, like I told you, I heard Trump was saying at one of his rallies, make America strong again. Yeah. So it's a Masa thing. Yeah. Okay, we got to make Americans strong again, okay?
Masa.
And do that. So by the way, we were talking locally a little bit.
Yeah.
If you are in the Las Cruces area, you have heard us talk about Juan and Sarah, who are fighting in our Las Cruces public schools. They're fighting against smut books. Okay, so tomorrow, Tuesday, and depending on when you hear this, because we record this actually Monday afternoon, and then it's uploaded to our YouTube and Rumble sites. But there will be a Las Cruces public school meeting at the administration building at 6 o'clock. Go. I don't think that you get public commentary, but it's really important we go and support these guys. They've been fighting so hard. There's a great billboard. You've seen the billboard,
I've seen the billboard.
It says, they're pushing pedophilia. And I hate to say that about our public schools, but we've been there. We know, we've heard excerpts out of that book, and we've seen that. And it's just a crime. It's not fair to our kids. I don't have kids, but I have nephews and nieces, and even we shouldn't act that way. And you're a dad. I don't have to sell this to you.
Yeah, that's how I got where I'm at, is getting involved with the school board. We have two, just down the street here at Zia Middle School, we had two high-level administrators get caught with some hardcore pedophilia. One of them put it on Twitter, him basically having sex with the underage person and bragging about how they learned so fast. And he got 11 years. And shortly thereafter, one of the guys that was working under him got busted for very similar things. So the pedophilia thing is deep ingrained in our culture here in Las Cruces, unfortunately, guys. And New Mexico has the most lenient laws in the country as far as pedophilia laws are concerned. I think actually California had just beat them recently.
But that's nothing to brag about. Wow.
Well,
that's terrible.
That's just that's just what you get, from living in a church in a state that was ran by the Catholic Church,
And we didn't get to talk about this, but the gun laws. There's a lot of gun laws, and I'm going to try to put them up on Facebook, that they're trying to get passed here in New Mexico.
Yeah, we can't give them an inch with the gun laws, guys. If they just want to make it a week waiting time, we can't give them that. We want it same day. But to go back really quick to Santa Fe, I'll just end on this. There was a lot of really good energy at the end. When I talked to people at the end, we all had a very clear understanding of what we need to do, what needs to be done. And ultimately, it just boils down to don't ask for permission and just do it. If you guys really care about this country, you care about your community, just get involved. Don't ask any questions. Just do what you got to do to implement some change. But yeah.
Well, that's good. So overall, you came away with a good feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Good energy.
I talked to some high-level players, some big dogs, and we were on the same page, and that gives me a ton of hope.
That's great. And then we're hoping, as we say, we're going to have more guests. These first few shows, it's been Zeke and I. We did have Henry Young on, our Doña Ana County chairman.
We got guests coming up.
We are going to have guests and get more information. And if you have any suggestions, you can always join the Friends of the Chips and Salsa Show on Facebook and throw your suggestions there if you want to also, or just contact us. I have a very easy email, alicelara@hotmail.com.
Hit her up, too.
Please do.
I just remembered, too, one last thing when I was in Santa Fe. This is a very interesting couple that I met in Santa Fe. They were Santa Fe hardcore Republicans. They were Christians, and they actually were hardcore involved with the San Francisco Republican Party.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so I was like, wow, you guys are like a crazy anomaly. You guys were dealing with like San Francisco Republican Party, then you came to Santa Fe and dealing with. So they were very interesting. They were very into the Bible, very Christ-like, heavily involved with the Republican Women's Organization. FRW. She was the head.
Oh, the president.
Yeah, she was the president. And her husband.
Big deal.
Super cool people. Super out of Santa Fe. So it's like, man, if we could just figure out a way to get us together more often, we can be a lot more powerful. It sucks that I just met them because those are the kind of people I want to hang out with and I want to get to know. Having that, like you, with Maricopa, you have all that experience in Maricopa County Republican Party. Like, what did you deal with? I'm always asking her, like, what the hell's going on over there? So I treating them the same way. Like, how the hell was the Republican Party in San Francisco? How is it in Santa Fe?
Speaking of which, shout out to Preston Romero, who's running for the state legislature in California, and he lives in Sacramento. So we have a lot of people that we want to talk to, and we can talk to.
Yeah, we got big guests coming up lined up. We're going to have Ben Luna on here, I think next week, right? The 5th. Yeah, we're going to have him on here on Monday.
Yeah, that's already next week.
Yeah, we're going to have him on here on Monday. And we
time flies.
Offer out to all the other U.S. Senate candidates, too. You got an open stage with us as well. I hope you guys take us up on that opportunity. Yeah,
contact us. We'll get you booked because, that's what we're going to be doing. This is an election year, and it's really important. That way you can get to know them and ask any questions. And, if you have a question, send it to us. We'll ask the question for you. We can always do that. Absolutely. I also want to just give a shout out real quick to the Coalition of Conservatives in Action every Thursday night, 6 p.m. at Kitchen Craft, which is right next to Rudy's Barbecue on Telshore here in Las Cruces. Mm-hmm. If you don't live in Las Cruces, New Mexico, maybe you live in El Paso or even Alamogordo or somewhere. That's where Ben Luna's from.
Right.
Come visit. We have great speakers. There are some wonderful people there, knowledgeable. And I haven't been able to make it, but I'm going to be there on Thursday. Are you going to try to be there
Hopefully
too?
I'll make it. I got to go back to Albuquerque again for a couple of days, doing some more political stuff. Helping Americans for Prosperity get some stuff done up there and down here and some other business stuff. I'll try to make it. But,
You'll be busy.
Even if I don't make it, what I'll say this, guys, is if you're a lot of people around the state are very familiar with Sarah Smith and Juan Garcia. And besides you, and maybe me, I don't know two other people that are fighting harder against the system and fighting for our children than Juan Garcia and Sarah Smith. I don't. Yeah. They are like legit soldier, fighter, warriors, God's people. So I'm honored to promote them and be a part of their organization. And they changed my life. Getting involved with those people and understanding hey, there's other people. I'm not crazy. There's people out there who care about the community and care about humanity too. And that's what the CCIA to me represents.
They're super knowledgeable. And just before we go too, we want to plug a magazine because our good friends Haley and Joey that are behind the camera scenes there.
You guys have a copy?
They have put out this wonderful, great publication. And it's free. If you haven't seen it, it's really worth your time.
Free 30
to pick it up.
Free 30 right here, guys.
And this is a restaurant connoisseur right here, Mr. Zeke.
Flavors of the desert. Yeah. I had some really good food over the weekend, some home cooked foods. It sucks about the generational thing because the woman who was cooking this weekend, she just whipped out I was like, man, they don't make them like you anymore. She cranked out a 4-course meal, nothing, homemade tortillas. Damn.
Oh man, you had homemade tortillas?
Homemade tortillas. I couldn't stop eating. I had 4 of them. I probably put on 5 pounds in a day. And she made green chili.
They weren't gluten-free, I'm sure.
Man. But yeah, restaurant-wise, I am a foodie. And what they're doing here, Flavors of the Desert, is they're getting local restaurants, local businesses on board to promote their company. And we're just going to let the community know about delicious local food throughout the state of New Mexico. It's from, in Las Cruces here, but, you guys are going statewide too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so statewide, if you guys want to get them in the magazine, Flavors of the Desert, hit us up, hit them up. I'm always honored to support local business and food because I love food.
Follow them. And a shout out also to Oregon Mountain Productions, and that's why this love, which you've been getting a lot of wonderful comments about the studio, and thank you, Chipsters, for doing that. So it's Joey and Haley, husband and wife, power team, always. So thank you very much. We
a lot
appreciate
of love on Instagram, and I follow other big time. I hate to say the word influencer, but people who are very heavily involved with social media. They're having big problems with Facebook too. People who have big followings, they can't get any traction on Facebook. And I gotta admit, mine's in the same way. Like my Facebook has kind of lost some momentum. But either way, I still love you guys. I love Facebook people. Please keep supporting us, please. But you can just tell a big difference on Instagram. People are, liking our posts, our reels. So thank you guys on Instagram. Everyone, Facebook, Instagram, everyone, Rumble, YouTube. Thank you guys for all your support. It really means a lot to us. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to stay consistent, and we're going to bring you guys high-level guests, and we're going to keep bringing in more interesting. And you know what? For Ben Luna, we will have chips and salsa for Mr. Luna, for sure.
All right, that's a promise then.
From Chalas. Chalas. We don't endorse. They don't endorse us. We're not affiliated with them. They don't pay us nothing. But I think. What we'll do is we'll do our own local.
We should do ratings, and then if we have one every week, and see who wins.
We'll see who wins. No affiliation. They're not paying us nothing, but just to do it to support local business and hopefully get Flavors of the Desert a little bit of kudos as well. Maybe they'll want to put the winner in the magazine.
Oh, there you go. That's a great idea. Absolutely.
Chips and salsa R-bomb. Had a lot of that this weekend, but man, it was freaking hot. The one I went to was like habanero based or something like that. Damn, it was hot. But I kept eating it like a weirdo, and I got heartburn later.
And isn't that something, though? It's like so addictive, like following politics. You just, this
burns so good.
But you just have to keep eating it. You can't stop.
That's what I did. I was like, man, this is too hot. I can't eat it. And before I know it, in conversation, I'll keep taking bites. So, yeah, that's what's up, guys. Had a lot of crazy stuff going on over the week. It's going to get crazier. You just wait. I just told you guys about deep underground military bases. Please Google that. Please trip out as hard as I am. That would make me feel better.
You just never know what you're going to hear on the Chips and Salsa Show in New Mexico.
Let's go to Dulce, New Mexico.
Okay.
Get shot up. Come up missing, right? Yeah.
Do they have a sign, or they don't have a sign anymore for it?
Well,
Dulce, which means what? Sweet? Candy used to be candy. Sweet? Dulce.
I'm not suicidal. I love life. I don't plan on flying any small planes anytime soon.
Oh, real quick. Did you see Bev Hogan's post on Facebook?
I did not.
She was up by the Oregon Mountains. Did you guys see it? And there's some little green things in the sky. They look kind of weird. I'll show it to you after the show. I'll try to post it on my Facebook, or maybe you can. Just, we have beautiful New Mexico skies, and sometimes I forget to look up. But look at the skies, because there's always something very interesting in our skies, as we know.
Especially New Mexico. Elon Musk is trying to go to Mars. He's confident we're going to be at Mars within the next decade. So it's like they got something.
Yeah, I believe that.
We got something.
I believe
I'll go to Mars. Forget this place, man. You know what I'm saying?
You can be the first Martian. You can be a sexy New Mexican Martian. How's that?
I've always liked the Mars movies. Remember those movies back in the day, A Mission to Mars? Did you ever watch that Mission to Mars? That was a great flick, And then there's always...
You're a big sci-fi guy?
Big sci-fi guy.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff.
Yep.
So that's why you and my husband get along, yeah.
That's why I'm Mr. Conspiracy Theory, because I just have that kind of imagination. I'd be down to go to Mars, whatever.
I want to thank all our chipsters for supporting us, and I don't want us to forget... You need to close out our show with a wonderful prayer.
Wonderful
you're
prayer.
The best at it.
Yeah, sure. So, thank you, Lord, for having us together here today and getting the message of truth out to our local population and to all the patriots who love this country, who love this state, who love our freedoms. And I pray that you continue to give us the strength and the wisdom to do the right thing, to fight for you, Lord, to bring us together so that we can have a good future for our children, our children's children, and our children's children's children. Thank you, Lord, for all the blessings that you've given us. And again, we pray that you continue to give us the fortitude to fight for you, Lord, and to fight for humanity. Amen.
Amen. Absolutely. Thank you, Zeke. You always do a great job with that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
We've been praying all weekend. That's no problem.
Keep praying. We got to keep praying and fighting.
Yeah, after what I've been through this weekend, man, I'm praying hard. It's crazy. I've been in Albuquerque all weekend. It's crazy over there, guys. I'll tell you what. And Santa Fe, too. Like, I always try to pray hard while I'm over there, too.
Yeah. Well, Santa Fe. I mean, our sin of faith.
Crazy energy
Absolutely.
there. Crazy energy. But had a good time. Looking forward to the future. Looking forward to seeing you guys next Monday with Ben Luna running for U.S. Senate.
Is he going to be in studio?
Yeah, he's going to be in studio. He's coming over.
How exciting. In studio.
And I'm right here.
Right on. Yeah, excellent. Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it,
That's
right?
it, guys. No, I got nothing else. Thank you guys for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you guys next Monday. We'll keep bringing the content. My show every Monday live, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Today was a short one. I did like 20 minutes. It was just me ranting and raving about relationships again. And I hope you guys tune into that as well. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, nmzeke.com, Zeke Rodriguez. Check me out there. See you guys next week, guys.
Goodbye. Guac on now.